Hey guys, welcome to a recap video here of the NFL wildcard weekend. I'm just going to do a quick recap of the games and then just a quick look ahead to the divisional matchups coming up for this weekend. So this week was a perfect week for me. The three games that I picked on the weekend video all covered Indy plus 7.5, Washington plus 9, took Cleveland plus 7. We went perfect 3-0. It was a great weekend. Hope you guys had a good weekend too. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends about the video. We're crushing it right now. Perfect 4-0 in week 17. Actually, we picked all 6 games. I did another ticket where we did a 6-game parlay. Won a perfect 6-0 there. So we're 10-0 in our last 10 against the spread. We're on fire. This is the time of year that you want to get hot. So I picked the 3 games, like I said, Colts, Washington, and the Browns all came through. A couple of my buddies, shout out to Anthony Carrera, Adam D'Angelo. You might see Anthony sometimes in the comment section. Adam, I don't know what he's doing. He's liking. He doesn't comment. He just wants to get the gist of the video and move on. But we watched these games and we're like, you know what? Let's do a group parlay. We each had our own ticket. The 3 games that I was on already. But we're like, let's just do a fun one. Let's pick all 6 games. Like I said in the last video, I wasn't crazy about these slated games. I was kind of picking the ones I felt best about. But we're like, okay, let's do it. And so whatever, we did a six team parlay. We cashed it, went 6-0. I got whatever, it's here. It's those are our 6. We picked Indy, the Rams, Washington, Baltimore, New Orleans, and Cleveland. Cashed out. It was like, we won 1,050. We put $10 each just for fun. I mean, these 6-game parlays are pretty hard to hit. Obviously, you might hit one in years. So it was cool. $30 paid times 35 for 1,050. I love how crappy the we just I'll bet at OLG, which is like a government run sports betting spot where you can go, and the odds are, if anyone's from Ontario here, they're piss poor in terms of odds. I think a 6-gamer pays like closer to times 50 normally, not 35, and usually you talk in profits. So if it's, for instance, like the 3-gamer I had, if you bet $100, really it should pay times 6. Mine pays times 5, and the times 6 should mean profit. So if you bet 100 times 6, you should get 600 profit back. Whereas they pay times 5 and it's 500 return. So not even profit. Technically, you're only profiting 400 because you had to buy in for the 100. So they screw you in multiple ways. They give you crappy odds and they don't talk profits, they talk payouts. You do lose a percentage of your bet that way. But it's just something to look out for if you're betting, depending on where you're betting, you can bet a million different areas. Just look at, is it profits or are we just talking about payout? Because there's a big difference there. But anyway, it was, so we were like, let's just pick all 6. And so my buddies, Adam, he's filling out the ticket, and he's like, okay, so the first game, Indy or Buffalo. I'm like, well, let's pick the 3 that I have on my own, which was Indy, Washington, and Cleveland. And then we're like, okay, Rams and Seattle. I'm like, just pick the Rams. I thought that was a sharp side. Baltimore, we like Baltimore. I said in the video that's who I would go with if I was picking the game. And then obviously the New Orleans game, like I said, we got 10.5 spread. There was no number. I mean, if it was over 14, I might consider Chicago, but as I said in the video, like, Chicago's terrible. It was New Orleans or pass for me. So listen, 6-0 this week, 4-0 in week 17. That's 10-0. We're hot. It's hard to do that. So the downside to winning this amount is in one shot is now I have to mail this in and wait for it. So I'll probably get it in sometime in April or May. So yeah, it was a good week. I mean, when you go through these games, guys, Vegas crushed it because the most public teams this week were Buffalo and Pittsburgh. And I said everyone was going to be on Buffalo. Indy, I said they were alive to win, and they should have won. They should have won the game. I mean, Frank Reich made a questionable at best call going for it on 4th down. He should have kicked the field goal when it was 10-7. Jeez, man, like, I think he's a huge reason why Philadelphia won the Super Bowl a few years ago, and the reason Doug Peterson was able to keep his job as long as he could. Now he's fired, so see you, Doug. But he made a couple of coaching errors, I thought, in that game. Indy, I mean, they scored the least possible points they could have scored the way they played, and Buffalo scored the most they could possibly score, if you know what I mean. So it was just one of those games where Indy should have won, and they didn't. But they covered the spread, which is what we care about. I think the Colts played a really solid game. It was just a couple of coaching errors, and Phillip Rivers just not coming in the clutch like he's done his whole career. A couple of bad throws by him. The Rams game, the Rams, that defense showed up. They were the reason why they won the game. Goff came in, didn't do a whole lot, but they were able to run the ball with Akers, and then that defense was unreal against Seattle. That's one of the reasons why I like the Rams. When you have the better defense and you're catching points, and you're a team that's had the other team's number, take the Rams in that spot, and they're able to get the win there. Washington was the only game this weekend where I felt worried about, and almost like I was on the wrong side in a way. I took Washington +9. I waited for that number to go up. I know it was going through dead numbers like I talked about, but when you have an offense as bad as Washington, you'll take every point possible. So that was 8, it went up to 9, and we were able to cover and avoid a push. But looking at that game, I'm like, I don't know if I was on the wrong side of that handicap, because if you told me before that game that Tampa was going to score 31, I probably would have took Tampa. And I was banking on that game to be more like a 24-17 type game, maybe 27-20. Tampa put up a lot of points, but what saved us was Heineke. Alex Smith not playing was a blessing, because there's no way they would have been able to put up 23, I think, with Alex Smith. Heineke was able to make plays with his legs. He had a good arm. He knew the system. He, I believe, played under Rivera when they were in Carolina, so he was a great insurance policy when they called him to play. He was taking online classes last week, and they're like, we got to call this guy just in case one of our quarterbacks can't go. Haskins is gone. Smith doesn't have a leg, and COVID, we don't know we need an insurance policy. And he came in and played a really good football game, but Washington's defense just couldn't do enough against Tom Brady. And Tampa's loaded. When you have Evans, Godwin, Antonio Brown, Gronk, you have 4 Pro Bowl wideouts, and you have Brady. So you can't blame Washington. But listen, we knew this was coming. I said, in week 17, it doesn't matter who wins this division. We all know that already. The NFC least is what some people call it. You can't have teams like Washington or Chicago getting in the playoffs. It's just, they're too bad of teams. And you have teams like Miami who's out of the playoffs. Even Arizona. You need to have, you can't have those type of teams in the playoffs because they're not going to do anything. But, we'll see what the NFL does about not allowing sub 500 teams in the playoffs. Baltimore, listen, man, the Ravens the reason I like them, it was a revenge game, which I don't usually like doing too much in the NFL. I think it's more of a college thing, but Lamar Jackson had to win this game to save face. You're an MVP quarterback last year. I'm not a fan of Lamar. I don't think he's a great quarterback, but this was a deciding game for him. Is this guy the real deal, or is he just a one-year wonder type of kid? And he played unreal, and mostly with his legs. He ran all over Tennessee, and good for Baltimore. I thought they were the better team all year. In Tennessee, they weren't going to go anywhere with that defense anyway. I thought their defense played better they played yesterday. But Baltimore, to me, was the better side. New Orleans, I thought they would get more separation over Chicago. They were, a game was close for a while, but the Bears and Mitch Trubisky could do nothing offensively. I saw the stat later on, but Trubisky's 0-10, well, I guess 0-11 now, against the spread against a top 10 defense, and New Orleans is a top 10 defense. He's not good. I was waiting for New Orleans to finally put some points up. Chicago's defense finally got tired, and that was it. New Orleans was able to open that game up. Jimmy Graham, nice catch, ran to the locker room, game over. And then the last game was this game, it wasn't a sweat for a while. The other games, Washington was definitely a sweat. Indy was a sweat for a bit. Baltimore, fell behind 10-0, but were able to come back. But Cleveland was not really a sweat there. Up 28-0 before we could sit down. And I said, watch out for Pittsburgh. They're 12-4. They haven't played well this season. They've been helped by a weak schedule. Ben didn't played an awful game. I mean, he had 4 touchdowns and 500 yards passing, but they were all garbage yards. They were all against a prevent D. He threw 4 interceptions. They turned over the ball 5 times. The offense did not have a good game. Cleveland was just giving them yards and almost let them back into it. But the Browns just, when they wanted to score, they scored. And so good for Cleveland. Listen, a lot of people got burned. I know a lot of the public was on Pittsburgh in that game, but Cleveland, good for them, and moving on to next week. So huge week. Listen, it's gonna be the last week, divisional round, because after that we're not gonna have many games to pick from. We'll just have the conference championships and the Super Bowl. So not much to break down in terms of volume of games we can pick. I cashed a props parlay last year in the conference final, so maybe I'll do some props when we get to the conference finals. But this is the last big week, so 4 great games. And listen, guys, just divisional round has been my round the last couple years. The wild card, I was 4-4 coming into this year, so now I'm 10-4 the last 3 years in the wild card. Divisional round the last 2 years, I'm 6-2. So this is the round I really like. This is a round where you can expect a higher chance of blowouts. So that was the other thing too. Saturday, all the dogs covered, and so I was texting my buddies. I said, "Listen, we're on Baltimore, New Orleans Sunday, which is perfect because they're both favorites. All the dogs covered Saturday. This makes our plays even stronger, and it sets up Cleveland as a dog perfectly on Sunday night. Watch for the favorites this week. I have to break down these games and really look at them, but I wouldn't be surprised if the favorites have a much better week and you see a couple of blowouts. So, but yeah, this week, obviously, Rams going to Green Bay. Green Bay's a 7-point favorite right now. And then, that's going to be a tough game for the Rams. I don't know who I'm going with in that game, but you have the best defense catching points again for the Rams, so that's a reason to pick the Rams. But then you got Green Bay and Rodgers, and the Rams are not a cold weather team. They probably don't want to be playing there, and I would be wary picking the Rams right now, but I'll have to see what happens as the week goes on, because that's a tough game right now for me to bet. And then you have we're going to have Baltimore. That's going to be a great matchup too, going to Buffalo. I think that line's 2.5 for Buffalo. That's going to be a great game. It's going to be a cold game, which if it's, so keep an eye out for the weather this week, as 3 of the 4 games will be in cold weather stadiums: Green Bay, Buffalo, and Kansas City. And then you have New Orleans in the Dome. So watch out for that and see how that, because if it's really cold in Buffalo, I think it plays in Baltimore's hands because they like to run the ball. Buffalo likes to pass a bit more. But that's going to be a great football game. Cleveland and Kansas City. KC is a 10-point favorite right now. We'll see. KC, I think, is 1-7 against the spread since the beginning of November, so they haven't been covering spreads that well this year. KC, if you remember last year in the playoffs, they fell behind a lot and then they would come back. They almost looked bored at times. But do I see Cleveland getting off to a quick start like they did against Pittsburgh against KC? I mean, I don't know about that. So that one could be a shootout. A little Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes. I feel like they may have been teammates for a brief time at Texas Tech, because I'm pretty sure Mayfield transferred to Oklahoma because Mahomes was there. And then they played against each other, and there was something like 1,700 yards of offense in that game. So maybe you'll see a shootout in KC this week. And the last game, you have Tampa, New Orleans. This might be the best game. I think New Orleans right now is a right around a 2.5, 3-point favorite. This line, for whatever reason, I think at the Westgate opened at 5.5 for New Orleans, which was crazy. And then it just got bet immediately down to 3. Before they were even able to get that out there, it just went down. So I think it's at 3 now for New Orleans. Great game. 3rd time these teams are playing this year. New Orleans won both games in the season. Mind you, one of them was week 1. I remember it took New Orleans in that game. It was Tampa's first game together, but Tampa's a much different team. And to be honest with you, Tampa looked better this past week. They both played similar defenses, right? Like New Orleans went up against Chicago. Tampa went up against Washington. Pretty close, comparable defenses there. And I thought Brady looked better than Breeze did this weekend. I thought Tampa Bay's offense looked better than New Orleans this weekend, and Tampa Bay's defense has gotten a lot better. So we'll see. I mean, listen, we got 4 great games. I'm gonna break them down as the week goes on. The video will probably be out on Friday, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, guys, again, keep spreading the word, subscribing, liking, commenting, and then we will see you as the later in the week. I think it'll probably be most likely Friday that I'll get these picks out. Just a bit of advice too. I mean, if you like favorites, I almost say bet them early in the week because chances are they're going to be bet up, I would think. If you like the dogs, maybe wait a little bit and see where the line goes. That's typically where I like to go. But when I look at, I feel like people will like Kansas City again this week and probably like Green Bay this week. So those lines might go up a little bit. So if you like the favorite, maybe grab them now, but see where they're going, right? Because right now these games are all sitting around 3, 7, or 10. So the Rams game's at 7, the Chiefs game's at 10, the Saints game is at 3, the Bills game is at 2.5, 3. So they're all key numbers. So really pay attention to line movement. That's the most important thing in the playoffs. Don't get caught up too much about last week's games. I typically don't look, like during the season, I'll look at how a team plays throughout the season. But in the playoffs, I think of each game individually. So I don't look at so much last week and things like that. It's kind of right now, how can I handicap this game? What are the point spreads? And where can I find line value? I do that during the regular season as well, but I will typically look at how a team is kind of going up and down throughout a 16-game schedule. But in the playoffs, just look at these games individually and really just, again, all 4 games are falling on key numbers, so just be very careful with that because your pick, if it's at 2.5, if that line goes up to 3.5, you can switch that pick because you lost that value. And a lot of guys will say, who do this professionally, that they don't even give a crap who's playing the game. They just strictly are looking at numbers. That's it. They could care less who's playing in that game. And I'm not quite at that point yet, but in the last couple of years, I've gone more to that side where I still like looking at teams because at the end of the day, we're still betting teams and actual people. These professionals almost don't even see these guys as humans. They're just looking at numbers. So I still look at it as games and motivation level, and which in the playoffs you're going to get the best anyway. But I have swayed in the last couple of years and have seen more success now looking at numbers because at the end of the day, Vegas are setting these lines and it's about money, right? So that's what you have to kind of look at when you're shopping for these lines and picking these games. You have to get the best odds, the best value. That's what's going to set you up to be winning more than you're losing in the long term. So just if that means anything to you. But again, subscribe, like, and comment. If you have any questions, put in the comment section. I can always make another video before my picks later in the week and just do more like just my thoughts, or any questions that you might have about certain games that you want to know early in the week. Just let me know and I can put up another video. There's no problem with that. So guys, good luck as the week goes on. Make smart picks and let's have another good week.